If you're from the e-commerce world, this is going to be such an interesting video. I did a breakdown of all of the parties that are involved in any e-commerce business, and I tried to, especially the larger parties, and I tried to look at like how much does each party make when there is a successful e-commerce business going on. Because the e-commerce store owner is not just the only person making money, right? There's an entire economy that is been created around e-commerce stores, and I want to tell you guys like how much each party makes, including the government. And believe me, they make a lot of money off of e-commerce stores. And I'm going to do a complete breakdown. Now, the numbers I'm going to show you are, of course, for India because I stay in India, but this can be applied to pretty much any country. When I'm showing you the numbers, you can just change up the values based on what it is like in your country, and you'll know how much each party makes. So without wasting any time, I'm really excited to show you the numbers. Keep paying attention. Make sure to hit the like button below. You know there's going to be a ton of value, at least a ton of like good data to look at inside this video. So let's dive in. So first off, we start off with the revenue. Like there's $100 revenue. Let's just consider an e-commerce store that does $100 in revenue. All right. And the presumptions we are making for this calculation is that the person got 3 ROAS, so they spent $33 on advertising to get that $100 in revenue, which is a pretty good like ROAS, especially in international markets. And the supplier also charges about 1/3 of the transaction value is the product cost. So let's say the product cost is $33, which they then sold it for $100. And the product cost includes shipping and all of those. And then you're left with around $33 for yourself. So the total turnover is $100. Now, let's look at PayPal transaction fee. So we are considering PayPal for this particular transaction. Credit card would also be different. For now, PayPal charges around 4.4% plus 30 cents in India for new merchants. So this comes out to $4.7 on this $100. PayPal also charges a conversion fee for converting from a USD to INR of $3. And they also charge a GST on PayPal conversion fee, which comes out to 0.54. And this comes out to more than $8 on that $100 revenue. Now let's look at Facebook ad cost. Now there's a thing called OIDAR, which I believe government has started sending on notices, like they also wanted to pay GST on Facebook ad cost. I've considered this for now, but this may not be true in the future. So this is a bit sketchy, but for now, let's just consider there's GST on Facebook ad cost. So $33 times 18% is 5.94. There's equalization levy, which you have to pay for like if you're spending in USD. So this comes out to 1.98. Bank markup fee, because you're spending using your card on Facebook ad cost. So a bank also charges about, I would say, like 3.5% plus GST. So you have the bank markup fee and the GST on bank markup fee. So this comes out to about $1.1 in bank markup fee and $0.2 in the GST on bank markup fee. So then you have cost of goods, which is what you pay to the supplier to fulfill the items. So you have to pay a GST on cost of goods at the rate of 2%. Again, based on OIDAR. Then you have a bank markup fee on cost of goods, which comes out to 18%. So this is 1.155, and then GST on bank markup fee, which comes out to 0.2. So after all of this said and done, like even though you were supposed to make a profit of $33 or $34 because you had spent $33 on cost of goods and Facebook ad cost, but then because of all of these other expenses, you're not left with $33. You're actually left with $14.47 on that $100 revenue. Now, moving forward, this is your gross profit, right? This is what you are left with after you have made your major expenses. And out of this gross profit that you made, let's say you take out like almost one third of this as your own personal salary, right? Because you also want to earn on a personal level, right? Your company makes an income, and you yourself have to make an income. So you have to pay income tax on that salary to yourself. So which this comes out to $5. Let's say you withdraw from the company out of 14.47. So you take out $5, you have to pay 33% on this as income tax at the end of the year. So this comes out to $1.65 that the government takes. Then you have company income tax on profit. Now, what this is that you have made a gross profit of this and you withdrew a $5 salary. It comes out to 9.47 and you have to pay 25%, which is basically the company income tax after cess, etc. included. So this comes out to $2.367 that you're paying to the government as income tax on profit. So the net profit after tax for company comes out to $7.1 out of $100. Net earning for self comes out to $3.35. Now, of course, you're going to spend a portion of this money on your own expenses, right? So let's say, you're filling up fuel for your car, you're buying some stuff, you're going out to eat, you're traveling, you're doing whatever expenses you're doing from your personal earnings. You can do it from your company earnings also, a lot of them. So your personal earning is, let's say, used for expenses on which GST is also paid. Even if you're doing it from the company, even then GST will have to be paid on almost all of the expenses that you do. Say you spend half of your personal earning, right? So out of 3.35, you spend like 1.675. So you have to pay a GST of $0.3 on this. This goes to the government. So the scraps earned by you. So now don't think of it. So this is the net earning made by you and the company combined. So this comes out to 7.1 plus 1.675, which is half of your earning minus 0.3. So after your expenses, you're left with 8.478 as the net profit. Now you have to remember this. Even your company is going to make certain expenses in order to stay afloat. Say you have hired a chartered accountant. Say you have hired some people to do the business. Say you've hired some freelancers and stuff to handle customer support. There are other expenses. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I can't include all of the expenses that anybody does because it just varies so much based on person to person. A person could be handling all the customer support by themselves, so they won't have that expense. So I can't consider all of that. But for now, we are left with almost $8.50 out of the $100 that we saw earlier. We're left with $8.50. Now this is the interesting part. What was the total earned by government though? So the government earned around $13.837. So this comes out around almost $14 out of the $100 that was transacted. $14 was earned by the government, but it doesn't end there. Why? Because banks and PayPal made around $10 in that transaction, almost 10%. Facebook made $33 and the supplier made $33. Now, Facebook and supplier and banks and PayPal will also have to pay taxes to the government on the profit that they earn from these transactions, right? So all said and done, I would bet you that this figure increases from $14 to say $20 plus. All said and done, when all the parties involved have paid their respective taxes, government makes a lot of money out of the $100. And you've also got to remember that out of the $7 that the company is making, it also has certain expenses. I haven't included that. You may be left with a smaller amount. So $8.50 might seem like a small amount. Now, of course, we have done some expenses out of the 8.5. Let's just say $10, all right? If we include 1.675. So it comes out to, let's say, $10. So you made a net profit of $10, right? Out of a revenue of $100. Now, this might seem like just 10%, right? Even though your actual profit should have been 34%, like $34. So this is an interesting way to look at the fundamentals, like how an e-commerce business operates, all the parties involved in e-commerce. And not just that, you have to remember, every business is going to be different. So the reason I keep hampering on to all my Indian friends who are watching this to create a US company, especially when you have, started off your operations, when you have, grown your e-commerce business, your international e-commerce business to such an extent that, all of the conversion fees, markup fees, GST fees, all of these just start to hurt. When it starts to hurt, you want to make sure that you have the US company, US PayPal account, US bank account, all of those things set, because you won't have a lot of these things. PayPal transaction fees goes down from 4.4 to 2.9 straight up on a new account. There is no conversion fees. There is no GST fees. There is no GST on Facebook ad cost. There is no equalization levy. There is no bank markup fee. There is no GST on bank markup fee, because all of this is paid using the US PayPal account and the US bank account. Cost of goods, there is no GST on cost of goods. There is no, all of these things are nil. There is nothing. you end up with a much higher gross profit. So all said and done, apart from like the $2.9 plus 3, so this comes out about $3.2 on PayPal transaction fee out of the $34 profit. So you're still left with over $30 in your gross profit instead of 14.47 as you saw here, right? So this is the big difference that it makes to your net earnings. So now what you have to do is, of course, it looks quite small because what I mentioned is $100. What if it was $1 million in revenue? On a net revenue of $1 million, the government would be making almost like $140,000. Banks and PayPal would be making like almost $100,000. And let me tell you right now, like you could save a lot of that money. Like you would only have to pay like, I don't know, 2.9% plus, so $3.2. So you would only have to pay like $32,000 on the net revenue of 1 million. All of this other thing would just come down to nil, right? And the expense you're paying, like all of these expenses that the government is making on GST, bank markup fees, and all of these things, these are also going to become nil. So you end up like making a lot of money for yourself, and you get to keep that money. You get to spend that money however you want it and use it for your own expenses. So I hope you enjoyed this little perspective on the e-commerce economy. If you did, make sure you smash the like button below. I'll see you next time. Until then, okay, tata, bye bye.